From enormous flash floods to divine intervention, discover the astonishing events that rocked Mecca and sparked global speculation. Make sure to watch till the end as we get into the deeper meanings behind this unmatched occurrence. Saudi Arabia, typically known as an arid country, was recently hit by a tremendous flash flood, which is surprising to say the least. A night of non-stop, heavy rain fell on the city, flooding the streets and causing mayhem for the thousands of worshippers encircling the holy Kaaba in the middle of the Haram shrine. Social media videos of the storm showed pilgrims running for cover, while mosque workers battled to control powerful gusts that toppled a billboard and swept away big trash cans. With the invasion of locusts, destructive windstorms, and enormous flash floods, both Saudi authorities and Muslims are left astonished by the cruel plagues that have befallen them. Muslims across the globe are now worried about this sudden strange phenomenon that absorbed the Kaaba. What is behind these shocking events? Will the Lord's return be heralded by this flood? Does this mean that the end times are near? People are attempting to understand the importance of the natural calamity that has impacted Mecca, the holy city, which raises these uncertainties. According to the Bible, God saw the bloodshed, depravity, and evil that had engulfed humanity. He decided to wipe out every living thing on the planet, except Noah, who had gained favor with the Lord. God gave Noah the exact measurements he needed to build an ark to survive the floods: 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Noah was told to bring 2 of each species aboard the ark, guaranteeing that some would survive the deluge and the others would perish. The rain continued for 40 days and 40 nights, creating a deluge. The animals on the ark, Noah, his wife, and their sons, as well as themselves, were spared from the flood and lived to tell about it, whereas every other living creature that wasn't inside the ark perished. Going back to the present, Mecca, which is tucked away in a low-lying location, was hit hard by a heavy downpour. The floodwaters quickly overflowed the neighborhood, turning the city's streets into rivers. Mecca, a natural rainfall catchment, encountered several difficulties because of its insufficient drainage systems and infrastructure, which were unprepared for such a flood. The residents of Mecca now have to deal with the aftermath as the floodwaters subside and try to restore their infrastructure to resist natural disasters in the future. Another incident has taken place. The Kaaba has been absorbed. Muslims all over the world are demanding answers, but some argue that seeking natural explanations alone won't resolve the situation, as Jesus had already foretold these happenings. Stay with us to learn about Jesus' clear warnings about such events happening in Mecca and how religious people may have overlooked them. Firstly, let us introduce you to the Kaaba and the disturbing incident that has shocked Muslims across the earth. The Kaaba, often referred to as the House of God, is an extraordinary structure of great significance in the Islamic faith. It has a central position within the Grand Mosque in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, and serves as a centerpiece for millions of Muslims worldwide during their annual pilgrimage, known as Hajj. However, the recent situation about the Kaaba has been disheartening. With bizarre weather conditions within Saudi Arabia, lots of pilgrims have been affected. Now, what is happening in Saudi Arabia? What is behind this shocking event, and how far does the damage reach? It serves as a reminder that nature's powers can still affect even the most sacred locations, and that communities' well-being depends on planning and adaptability. Property damage was sustained. Daily activities such as prayer at spiritual sanctuaries were disturbed, and traffic came to a complete stop. Let us examine the Great Flood Tale, which has theological importance in the traditions of the Judeo-Christian faith. Both a divine retribution and a means of deliverance for Noah and his household are perceived in the flood. The narrative states that God chose to wipe out all humankind save for Noah and his family, because Noah was seen as sinless and righteous. God and humanity had a new relationship as a result of this occurrence. They were represented by the rainbow, which is a symbol of God's vow to never again flood the planet. This covenant prepared the way for the New Testament, which centers on Jesus Christ, who gave his life to cleanse humanity of sin. The moral lesson of the flood myth is the dangers of living a wicked life. It highlights the idea that life is a valuable gift that shouldn't be squandered on crime and violence. One interpretation of the animals' presence in the flood is that they are a metaphor for God's creation. which was made with humans in mind. The aim of these things is lost, though, when people act wickedly. In addition, the account of the flood demonstrates God's ability, when enraged, to accomplish the seemingly unattainable, although it is crucial to take the ethical and theological implications of such incidents into account. The fact that human activity is causing the Earth's ecosystem to malfunction must also be acknowledged. Human-caused factors are frequently cited as causes of ozone layer depletion, global warming, and more extreme weather. However, it is important to remember that throughout the beginning of time, there have been natural disasters. Include other apocalyptic occurrences, like the extinction of species. Many people have believed that the divine speaks to humanity through natural events throughout history. Wildness marked God's creation from the beginning, chance and unpredictability. Even before humans appeared on the scene, the earth was far from serene and ideal. The negative impacts of human sin on the natural order, such as increased pain during childbirth and difficulties in farming, are highlighted in the Genesis scriptures. The natural world is not immune to the effects of human behavior, proving that deeds have cosmic repercussions. The entire creation was profoundly impacted by humanity's fall into sin. Suffering and frustration decayed and became a part of the earth. Sin is regarded as the primary source of disease, misery, and death, as well as natural disasters. It's critical to understand that these phenomena are impacted by human behavior and are not only random occurrences. Natural disasters are frequently connected to God's wrath on the world in biblical passages. Jesus Christ himself foretold amazing things happening more and more, such a rebellion against nature that would herald the coming of the end times. The Old Testament tells stories of times when God punished people for their transgressions by sending calamities and plagues. Jesus foretold earthquakes, pestilences, and famines as indicators of the end times in the New Testament. These occurrences are viewed as a warning to humanity to turn from its sins and turn to God. It is important to remember, too, that although natural calamities are sometimes seen as the start of sorrows or labor pains, they can also be seen as indicators of the end of the world. Jesus' teachings emphasize how crucial it is to discern the times and realize that these are not the end, but rather the beginning of hardships. Natural calamities, political unrest, personal crises, and the breakdown of social structures could all be concerning. However, they point to the necessity of preparation and spiritual awakening. Natural catastrophes are traditionally seen to have moral and theological ramifications. They draw attention to the effects of human behavior on the natural world, even as they could operate as a reminder of divine authority and judgment. These occurrences force humanity to consider their obligations to the environment, turn to God for forgiveness, and develop resilience in the face of adversity. It's an intriguing viewpoint that the beginning of sorrows, as Jesus described it, relates to a sequence of sad occurrences that continue until another major event occurs. The Greek word for sorrows in this context is frequently connected to labor or childbirth difficulties, implying that these experiences are the giving birth pains for a new stage. The state of the globe would deteriorate further after these events started until a major event culminated. Jesus said that people who follow him will face persecution and martyrdom at the beginning of sorrow. This severe persecution would cause many people to stumble and give up on following Jesus, and even out of dread, turn against and detest one another. There would be a surge in false prophets who would trick a lot of people, and there would be more violence and hatred. But Jesus promises that once these things happen, the end of the world will bring about sorrows, and then labor pains will grow, ushering in a time known as the Great Tribulation, a time of immense suffering and disaster. Following this dreadful period, the Lord's homecoming sign would manifest, and Christ and everyone in heaven would return. This image bears similarities to the vision of Christ's return with a throng of saints found in Revelation 19. Jesus prepares his followers for the challenges they would encounter in this life by predicting these things, including the start of sorrows. He tells them that this is not the worst that they will go through. However, the prophet's prophecy of the Messianic kingdom will mark its eventual conclusion. After learning the conclusion of the story, the disciples were able to walk with urgency and hope, realizing how crucial it was to seize the moment. In conclusion, the recent events surrounding the Kaaba in Mecca have left the world in awe and contemplation. From natural disasters to theological interpretations, the significance of these occurrences cannot be overstated. Don't miss out on future updates and thought-provoking content. Subscribe now to stay connected and join the conversation.